Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zelbo Tech, and this past week we had news about some changes within Apple. We're still waiting for iOS 16.4 and maybe another version as well. Also, we're hearing more and more about iPhone 15. This is your news update for the week of February 6th, 2023. Now, Apple had their earnings call last week where they said Apple now has over 2 billion active devices, iPhones, iPads, and other devices as well in use. They also said that they have a profit of $30 billion on sales of $117.2 billion. This is actually down 5% for the same period year over year and largely blamed on the supply chain being unable to meet demand based on manufacturing challenges within China. So that's something we really haven't seen before, and they actually said that we would have had the sales had they had the actual product in hand. Apple also dropped the price of the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max today in China by $118. That's in a move I don't think we've ever witnessed, and this is to combat slowing demand in China for iPhone. So that's something we don't think I've seen in a long time, if ever, that they've actually cut the price back on an iPhone. On Apple's website, you can see their executives and who's in charge of what, and they're actually changing this up a little bit where their design chief is actually leaving and they're not replacing that role. Instead, the whole team will actually report directly to Jeff Williams. So you can go through and see here's Jeff Williams. Everyone will report to him as far as the overall designs. This raises a bit of concern as it seems Apple is turning away its focus from design and product perfection. So we're not really sure how this is going. This could be for the better, it could be for the worse, but let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Now, Apple has a support app that they've had for a little while around the world in certain places, and it allows you to get support on your current device. It'll show your devices, help you manage your subscriptions, show you information about iCloud, and if you have a problem with them, help you troubleshoot and maybe bring it in for service. This is now available in 118 new regions around the world as of January 30th. So if you have an issue, you can go into this app, troubleshoot it here, and if they can't fix it here, well, then you can bring it into a service center or an Apple store. But it's nice to see they're rolling that out everywhere. Now, something I wanted to mention is the case that I have on my phone. This video is sponsored by CaseQ, and this is their CaseQ Magic Stand case. It comes in clear, blue, deep purple, space black, and there are new clear purple and clear black cases too. It's a protective case that adds grip and looks pretty great. It has a raised bezel around the screen and the camera, but it also has a hidden stand built in. The stand allows for a 40 to 100 degree angle and has a magnet in the ring of the stand that supports MagSafe accessories and charging. You can use the code ZELOTECH for 10% off, and I'll link them in the description if you want to check them out. A factory-sealed iPhone from 2007 is currently up for auction on the LCG Auctions website. Many expect it could go for as much as $50,000. Whether or not someone was willing to pay that much for an original iPhone that's sealed and we don't really know what's inside is hard to say, but we'll have to wait and see what it actually goes for. There's currently 14 bids at the time of this video, and it's at $15,294. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. This past week, Apple launched an MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. If you go into the Apple TV app, go under Watch Now, scroll down, you'll see Introducing MLS Season Pass. It says watch every 2023 season match and including playoffs, no blackouts, and you can subscribe for about $13 per month, depending on your country. So that's available starting, well, a few days ago. Within Apple Music, Apple released Replay 2023 this past week as well to show you what you've been listening to so far this year. So you'll see it's updated regularly, and you can see all the different songs there of what you've been listening to. In the near future, Apple may open up their iPhone due to recent rulings in the European Union to allow for third-party app stores and side-loading of apps. Google is already hard at work on a new web browser that would actually go outside the current App Store rules. Right now, when you download a browser such as Chrome instead of Safari, you're actually using Safari just with a skin over the top of it, as Apple doesn't allow separate browser engines on iOS or iPadOS. Google's making something else with their own Blink engine, and that makes sense if they're going to have to open up to other apps. So that's something we're already starting to see. And in the USA, the current administration is also looking to change Apple's current lockdown on its ecosystem. They would like to also allow for third-party app stores, allow alternative payments outside the App Store, third-party web browsers, as I mentioned before, changes to pre-installed apps where you would have a choice to maybe Spotify over Apple Music, and a more transparent app store for developers and the process of approval. I'm not a big fan of having government mandate different things like that, but we saw that when Microsoft got too big in the European Union. When you install Windows for the first time, it will ask you which browser you want to use and different things like that. So a selection like that seems to make sense. As long as we can delete what's already here, that seems to be enough for me, but let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. Now, Apple Pay is set to launch in South Korea this year now that government approval has been given. This could be in an upcoming version of iOS or pushed remotely, but Apple Pay should be available in South Korea very soon. Along with Apple Pay Later around the world. That's launching soon, according to Tim Cook, who said the Apple employees are beta testing this feature. Again, this could require an update or could just be pushed as much of the code is already there. And that means we'll probably have an update very soon. Apple recently stopped signing iOS 16.2 this past week, meaning there's no downgrading back to that version. Also, they stopped signing older versions, iOS 12.5.6 and 15.7.2. So that typically signals that they're going to actually push out a new update within a few weeks. That's normally what we see. And one thing we could see very soon is iOS 16.3.1. According to MacRumors and 9to5Mac, iOS 16.3.1 is showing up in their logs for their website, meaning someone at Apple is actually browsing their website using those newer versions. You can see that in their overall analytics in the logs of their website. They also show that someone is using iOS 16.4 and also iOS 17 to browse the websites. So those are versions, of course, we know are in the works, and currently we're waiting for those new versions to release. iOS 16.3.1 could be as soon as this week. We don't really know. Apple doesn't tell us when things are releasing, but it could be as soon as this week, could be today after this video, or the next day. The same is true with iOS 16.4 Beta 1. It's been a long time since we've had a beta. It's very unusual for Apple to wait this long. Typically, the day after a public release is out, such as iOS 16.3, we'll see a beta the next day or the following week. So far, we haven't seen that. So that leaves this week. It seems highly likely that we'll get something. If we don't this week, well, they could be changing up the strategy altogether. But this week, I would expect at least a beta, possibly a public release, sometime between now and Thursday. Apple, again, changes up the dates lately. As far as iOS 17, we're not hearing a whole lot right now, which is a bit odd. Typically, about this time of the year, we'll hear some more information about it, and maybe there's just nothing to say, or it's just being very held secretly or held closely at Apple so it doesn't leak. And we'll see the first version of that typically in June, usually at WWDC 2023. So we'll see whatever's in iOS 17, along with watchOS 10, macOS 14, and all of the other OSs. Now, I did want to let you know about some deals that are quite good this week. AirPods Pro 2 are on Amazon for $50 off right now, down to $199 being sold directly from Apple. Also, the Apple Watch Series 8 41mm is $329 in the product red version, but also discounted heavily down to about $350. So we're seeing some discounts on that, as well as some other products as well, iPads and more. I'll link those in the description. As we've heard before, Apple is planning to introduce an iPhone 15 Ultra. However, instead of replacing the Pro and Pro Max models like we thought before, it would be in addition to the Pro models, but at a higher price. So we would have a regular iPhone, the Pro, Pro Max, and then possibly the Ultra. At the recent Apple earnings call, Tim Cook said he believes there's room for a price increase. On the call, he said, "I think people are willing to really stretch to get the best they can afford in that category." Apple did that with the Apple Watch Ultra. It makes sense that they could do that with the iPhone, and much of that information is now being released, or at least speculated by Mark Gurman. So it seems like that information could be pretty accurate, and we could see that as soon as September when the iPhone 15 launches. Mark Gurman also said that Apple could switch to a normal iPhone and get rid of the Mini or Plus models that we've been seeing for the past couple of years. Those continued to decline in sales, and it would make sense that Apple would have a normal iPhone, so maybe iPhone 15, 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, and 15 Ultra. But that may take a couple years to see that, as many people still say there's going to be a 15 Plus this year. Apple typically makes changes every couple of years. Also, we're hearing more information about iPhone 16. While we are expecting a periscope zoom camera of some sort in the iPhone 15 high-end models, Ming-Chi Kuo is saying that in the iPhone 16, it will be limited to the highest end model, maybe the Ultra. So that's something that could change in 2024 as an incentive to continue to buy the highest end phone. Apple's most powerful Mac, the Mac Studio with the M1 Ultra, may be a one-off model according to Mark Gurman, similar to that of iMac Pro, where it's sort of something to hold us over until we get the new Mac Pro. It's something that Apple released that goes up to $8,000 and is so fast that there really seems that there's no reason for a Mac Pro. So in order for a Mac Pro to make sense, they may get rid of the Mac Studio. That makes a lot of sense to me, but we'll have to wait and see if that's something they actually do. But I've been using a Mac Studio, it's great, and I don't know that there's a need to upgrade to a Mac Pro, so he may have a point there. Display analyst Ross Young had talked about possibly folding devices in the future, and he has a very good track record. He said Apple is working on a 20.5-inch foldable MacBook. So instead of a foldable iPad that we've been hearing, it could be a MacBook instead, where we would have a MacBook display that actually folds into half when you want to use it on the go or take it on the go, just like we have with a current laptop. So you would open it up with a full display, with a virtual keyboard possibly, and then close it on the go, and we could have sort of a touchscreen Mac there as well. So we wouldn't see that until 2025 if Apple actually decides to move forward with it. Now, according to Ming-Chi Kuo, AirPods Max 2 are in the works, but not coming very soon. We thought maybe because we're seeing sort of these disappear from different websites that possibly we could get some new colors soon. However, Ming-Chi Kuo is saying the second half of 2024 for new AirPods Max 2. We've already seen some possible design changes with touch-based buttons and things like that, and we just haven't seen it released to the public. I'm not sure that they need to release it just yet, but maybe next year makes a lot of sense. Additionally, Apple is apparently working on lower-priced AirPods as well. So not just expensive AirPods like the Max, but also a lower-priced AirPod to replace AirPods 3, or maybe even lower than that. They're also working on a HomePod Mini 2, despite what Mark Gurman said the previous week. It won't be until late 2024, though, again, according to Ming-Chi Kuo. Now, a new report from DigiTimes claims that in 2024, Apple will release an even larger Apple Watch Ultra display. Now, that could be by reducing the bezels on the outside, but bumping it up to 2.1 inches instead of the current 1.93 inches. So it wouldn't be too much bigger, but we could see an even bigger display version of the Ultra. Let me know what you think of that in the comments below. I don't know that we need a bigger display, but if maybe they shrink the bezels a little bit, it's strong enough where they could do that, bumping it up just a little bit maybe makes sense. And so that's everything for this week's news. Lots of information, and of course we're all waiting for that upcoming update to iOS 16.3.1 or 16.4. Again, hopefully that's within the next couple of days. If there's anything else you'd like me to cover in these weekly news updates, let me know in the comments below. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.